All right, it's 5:30 now. We will start with our impromptu Amherst School District meeting tonight. We had to schedule not an emergency meeting, I guess. We were able to post it yesterday or the day before with the agenda, but had some staffing issues that we needed to discuss, some staffing items, I should say, we needed to discuss today to be able to allow the superintendent and the school district to make hirings here over the next couple of weeks before we get to the end of the fiscal year and qualified positions and qualified personnel become even more sparse than they already are. So with that, before we take public comment tonight, we have 4 folks that are in person. We do have 1 person that is remote, Victoria Parisi, joining us remotely tonight. So Victoria, can you first confirm that you are by yourself and then it was impractical or impossible for you to be here tonight?
I am by myself and it was impractical for me to be there tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. So first off, we'll take public comment from anybody here in person. Seeing none, I will turn it over to our Zoom crowd. Do we have anybody, Steve, in Zoom?
Check. I don't think so. I gotta start the share.
Yeah, I didn't log in. I apologize.
Nothing.
All right, we don't see anybody on Zoom, so we will pause. We will stop the public comment for now, close our first session. And for our main agenda topic tonight, I will turn it over to our interim superintendent for what, another 36 days,
Something
Steve?
like that.
Not that you're counting, right?
Now, I really appreciate your time and Victoria online time to take a look at just staffing. We've talked about this a number of meetings, a very competitive environment. And and during the budget process, during the recommended, the budget process, not the default, but the budget process, we had 106 as a projected amount in the budget that was proposed. And in that amount, we did have an additional kindergarten teacher that was advocated for. So that's why we're here. We've been monitoring it. Kathleen and I've been monitoring it all the time, and we hit the 106 threshold. So it's May 25th and with 106. So this is just where we are. But why we're here, because in the budget process, we said 106 warranted the inclusion of a kindergarten teacher in the budget. But of course, we're in default and we have not, and the board and is not tonight voting for a recommended default. That will happen on June 15th. But we either talk about this tonight or we wait until June 15th. And in a very, very competitive hiring environment, Tom felt, and I appreciated that, because we're having a meeting anyway, let's get everybody together and see if there's the will of the board is to speed some hiring up and get a chance to do the best we can in the most competitive environment that I've seen in my career. So just to where we are. So right now we have 106 registered kindergartners. Right now we have in the current budget 6 sections. So if we, that's an average class size in kindergarten at 17.6, okay? If we pull and we go to 7 sections, that would reduce the class size to 15. Now we have, to Kathleen and her team has been monitoring the number of students we received from basically June 1st to the start of school. And the last 3 years, or the last 3 good data collection years, it has been 12 each year. And so that's the rub. If we stayed at 106 now, we'd stay at 17.6. But if we get 12 kids, that would go up to 19.6, which is steep in kindergarten. You with me? And it's a difference. And I talked about this at our last meeting, that 106 in August 28th is different than 106 on May 25th, because we have over 2 months to have the possibility to increase. And our standard, our most common number is 12 each year for the last 3 times, non-COVID. The last 3 times we've tracked this, we've had 12 each year. Okay, so that's it. Now if we go with kindergarten, and so I'm also going to talk about first grade. So the 2 biggest concerns of Kathleen and the numbers are kindergarten, first grade. Okay, that's kindergarten today, 106. If we stick with kindergarten, we allocate funds for a kindergarten class. There is space that doesn't impact art in a cart or special on a cart. But if we move to Wilkins and we go to first grade, so where are we in first grade? First grade, we're at 130. Okay, and in the budget right now, we have 7 sections. So right now, budgeted based on current enrollment, we have a first grade size of 18 and a half. Big, but that's okay. Last year and Tom knows, this is one of the first conversations you and I had as your interim soup last summer, was we hit a 24 new student threshold. That's a whole class. You with me? So we had some savings through hiring last year, called Tom, met, and we hired another first grade teacher last year. Because of the off, budget cycle increase of 24 kids. That's an anomaly though. That is not our pattern. The 12 I spoke about kindergarten, that's a pattern, 12, 12, and 12. This is an anomaly. We don't know, if this is expected, but if we hit 24, like Kathleen said, it would have to be more than 10 for her to pump this. We can go, she's comfortable with this group going 19 and a half, even a little bit more. So we have a little bit of play there. If we hit 24, we'd be in trouble in River City. Now, if we go to 8 sections at Wilkins, then we are talking a special honor cart. We have run out of classroom space. And as the board heard, and Victoria's out there in the world, she's been on building grounds with Shannon, right? We are pursuing a unique opportunity with a no longer needed New Hampshire portable, 3-year-old portable in another district who it leases up. We're pursuing that option of obtaining that and leasing that. The leasing that the other district was $3,500 a month. That's not a bad gig. The question is, how much does it cost to move it? And how much does it cost to install it in a safe, it is not, and I don't know if Tom knows this, but we've been talking about it is not a bathroom portable, right? That's why and this is not portables forever. This isn't the next iteration of portables forever. This is a unique opportunity where New Hampshire had a 3-year-old portable on a 4-year lease. They don't need it. They're liquidating it. Called them because I, been around for a little while. They said, "Yep, this is it." I was hoping we could just simply take over their their lease. The company said, no, they're going to take it. In theory, they're going to take back ownership and we're working with them. So Roger is working with the leasing company, with a portable company and DEW to determine how much it would cost to safely install that. You with me? And by June 15th, we should have those numbers.
Okay.
Real quick, what about the para? There's no recommendation tonight that we commit to a para. There is a recommendation tonight that because of the hiring and 106 and May 25th and the tradition of 12, that we pull the trigger and add a staff member. And it would take Kathleen a week, she thinks, to bring a nomination to me. If the board's uncomfortable, perfectly fair. The next time I would be bringing this to you is June 15th. We have a regular scheduled meeting. You picking up what I'm putting down?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got for the impetus of this is, trying to not wait till June 15th because we have we've done it. We had a teacher leave, resign. So we've done an anticipated posting and we've collected applications and we think we have some applicants right now. And if I text Kathleen after this saying, yes, we have board authorization to add this position. Now, where does this come from? Just to remind everybody, this comes from an instructional coach position at Amherst Middle School. That's where we find the funds. That position goes to an extra, so that goes to a needed enrollment-based position. That staff member knows, that's why we can talk about it. I mean, everybody knows about this. And we've talked about this, I think. So that's where the position comes in the recommended default. Basically what we're saying is early education enrollment is a priority over an instructional coach position at Amherst Middle School. And Kristen knows that, Kathleen knows that, leadership knows that, Mike and I have been involved. Yes, it is early, smaller class size, early at Clark Wilkins is a higher priority right now than instructional coach position at Amherst Middle School.
All right, questions from the board. Terry.
All right, so I got a couple. So
You with me?
I think that planning for kindergarten and getting good applicants, I'm 100% for that. And I agree with you, seeing a trend year over year. I think that we get pushback when it's like, how could you not have known? Well, it's like, hey, we're looking at our, like you say, good collection years and anticipating that we will have more, especially if we staff up. I think more parents will feel comfortable having their kindergarten here, knowing that they will have an appropriate class size for them. So I think that it will actually help us to get those students earlier and have them in our programs and give us the benefit of having them for kindergarten. So I think that it's all upside in that way. Thank you for reminding us about how we're paying for it because I knew it, but thank you for the reminder. And so it's just that instead of reverting him back to being instructional coach, he will be a classroom teacher at AMS to help offset. Yes, that is that offset.
Yes.
So leaving first grade alone also, I agree, the kids have got a little bit of experience in school at that point, and being in a slightly larger class and having other teachers closer by and having the ability to kind of leverage from that. I could see where we could creep a little bit up, and it would take an unprecedented year like 24 over the summer to really shift that. So I guess just keep us in the loop. I had not heard that the portable we're looking at is a no bathroom. Is there any, would it be next to the other, or would it be over on the side toward closer to the building possibly?
Yeah, closer to, right now, we're looking at them space between the building and the playground. There's some.
That's what I was thinking too. Okay, yeah.
We just got to make sure the fire trucks can go around.
Okay, thank you. Because I hadn't heard that detail before, and suddenly
I don't know when we discovered it, and I don't mind it because it reinforces this is not forever. This is
Right.
a very short-term lease under unique circumstances.
but yeah, being closer to the building in that circumstance would be better. Okay, cool.
On
Those
a-
are all my questions. I
I should have had this in the slides. I apologize. So 7 sections of like a kindergarten, our max is 19. So if we get 12 kids, we will be over our maximum on our Amherst enrollment class size, sorry. And on grade 1, it's 20. So we do have, as Kathleen said, we have a little bit of space before we get to the max in first grade for our class size targets.
Shannon?
How many sections of kindergarten do we have right now?
6.
And our enrollment is well beyond, what are we at, like 124, 130?
Oh, this year.
Right now,
I
how many
apologize.
sections do we have right now this year? Sorry.
We are around 123, I believe. Don't quote me, but in the.
Well, I'm looking at the SAU enrollment report. It says we're at 124. So I'm curious how many sections we have.
We have 6
6.
in kindergarten. We had planned on 7, but that teacher was taken to go to first grade because
Yeah.
of those 24 unexpected students and a known need in that, with that first grade group.
Yes, so it would be back to back really. Kindergarten.
And we have a para though in every kindergarten, right? There's always 2 adults.
We do. That is true.
And how does that feel this year with the 6 sections at 124? Because we're talking like if we add 12, we're at 120. I know that's inches us at our max of 9, so it's 19.6, right? And so we're just over the max. I'm just,
Yeah, it is a little bit high. They're doing fine. Again, it depends on the group as a whole. We were probably lucky this year, but there are certainly still challenging students and, students who need a little extra. Because there are 2 adults in the room, I think we've squeaked by with it being okay. But certainly, we don't want, our class size targets were developed knowing there were 2 adults in the room. So even that goal of 17 in kindergarten feels a little high compared to other districts, but that was done with, 17 with 2 adults.
okay.
Jason? Victoria, you'll be next if you have any questions.
Yeah, I have a couple questions first, so I'm for getting a staff member, but I don't know that I am yet fully decided on where that staff member should land, whether it be kindergarten or first grade.
Us too.
In part because I'm concerned it's not ideal regardless of whatever we choose to do, whatever ends up happening. I'm concerned for those kids who are already in a big class in kindergarten, if they then also go to a pretty big class again in first grade. So there's a part of me that leans towards, well, let's get them some extra attention for, maybe interventions or whatever it might be. So I guess I would feel good about hiring somebody the next week if Kathleen can do that, so long as that person is aware that
Yes.
you might be sliding one way or the other. And then, so I know we heard our class sizes and last year we spent a lot of time being compared to other districts and things like that. And we know Mount Vernon is, our companion district, for lack of a better term. Just out of curiosity, what are their class sizes look like?
Yeah, this year their kindergarten is very small. I believe it's either 13 or 14 in each group. and that's approximate. I might be one or two off, but in that range. Next year, right now, we have 30 enrolled, so 15 in each. They do not have a paraprofessional, either part-time or full-time, only special education paraprofessionals up at Mount Vernon. So while they're a little bit smaller, that's just naturally because they're smaller. They also only ever have that one adult in the room unless there is a student with a assigned
And-
paraprofessional.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah, no, I just asked because, it's the comparisons, it's like,
Yeah.
so what makes us different from Mount Vernon? And so one of the things I think is I'm trying to highlight here is they have a different class size from what we have.
Great question.
Anything from you, Victoria? Or you're all set, Jason? Okay.
Yeah, what Jason said, I was kind of thinking the same thing when we talk about kindergarten or first grade and where to place a teacher. I was kind of thinking that if these kids have gone through a large class year in kindergarten, that giving them the opportunity to have a smaller ratio in first grade might make more sense. It pains me because, like you said, that means that something goes on a cart. I understand that implication, but I think we might be missing an opportunity to catch up any of the lacking skills of that kindergarten group. My other question is kind of understanding the size of that first grade. I think, Steve, would it be possible for you to pull that slide up and share that? I think I read that there were 123 or 130.
130.
100.
123 currently. We already have 7 students registered for next year for first grade. Those are the students who went to a private kindergarten program.
Okay, so we have,
23 plus 7 new.
Yes.
okay, so we have 7 new. And last year we had 24 new. So
Correct.
I don't know, obviously you two might not have this information off the top of your head, but I would assume that our number that we are going to receive is going to be somewhere between 7 and 24. And I guess my concern is if we add too many more, we get ourselves up to a larger number. And those first graders do not have the benefit of having the extra para in the room.
Fair.
I'm also concerned that if we bring those kindergarten class sizes down to 15, then we're talking only one more than Mount Vernon, and Mount Vernon does it without paras. And I think that's a bigger question, obviously, for us to, discuss at some point. In our district, we have valued the paras at that younger level. So I'm in no way saying we should get rid of those positions. I just think we need to be very aware of what the cost implication is for our taxpayers when we're doing that as well. That's all for me.
No, very well said. And if we do happen, if it works out financially, that we can get that funky portable, that could free up a classroom at Wilkins. We might not have to do a cart. And we'll know I talked to Roger today, our expectation is to bring something to you on the 15th for that. And Kathleen and I spoke today, procuring another certified teacher early and assigning that teacher later on, once we have a lot more knowledge about the enrollment and where the kids are, is absolutely appropriate, and absolutely in our radar.
Okay. Yep. The only other concern I would have here is that on one of the other slides, you mentioned that this would be like moving that library position. And I just feel like we've talked about that library position benefiting a wide range of students.
Yeah.
And I worry that when we target help for a smaller group of students, that the wider group of students, of gen ed students, loses out on something. I think we've seen it in the past in this district, and I think it's something that we have to be aware of.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that advocacy for that position. It is an important position. And all this can come later, but it all factors, but at least we would procure a half-time. If we decided needed to go K, for example, K just really exploded between now and we needed another pair, we at least would maintain a half-time model in there.
All right, so my quick points are: I support this if it's a first grade teacher. I do not support it if it's a kindergarten teacher, because I do not believe that we need to have 2-to-1 we need to have a 7 or 8 to 1 adult to student ratio at this point with two adults in the classrooms at this point. I feel that we can go a little higher and still have flexibility considering, all the discussions we've had on paras. And I do think and agree with Victoria that the para conversation needs to happen again. If this were, 3 paras for 6 classes, it's a different conversation in my mind. But that's not the conversation we have tonight. So does anybody want to make a motion to support or reject this idea? Anybody want to make a motion regarding giving the district the ability to hire this extra teacher and assigning that teacher at a to be determined timeframe based on enrollment? Shannon, go ahead. Just know we
Sorry.
have.
Yeah, no, I know we're limited on time. Just 2 quick questions. So, we have a large first grade cohort right now that's moving up to 2nd grade. Where is that coming from, the extra section that's in 4th grade this year for next? Okay, so that's not, okay. And then if this did go to kindergarten at Clark, what space would be used there? What classroom space? Who are we displacing?
Yeah, there is a room with a special educator and our interventionist. In that room, it would likely be that space, and we would look to find other spaces for them. It's easier to find small group spaces. And they are currently housed and share one classroom. I believe that's accurate for what would likely happen.
Okay, I tend to share the sentiment of, I think, what Tom just said at this moment in
Okay.
time with our numbers right now.
Assignment won't occur until much later.
Okay.
You will procure the staff member at either all intents and purposes will be either a K or a 1. Everybody with me? Yep, 100%. Love it. Very, very, I think this is a wonderful outcome.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve that then, or a motion?
I'll
on the
make a
floor?
motion to allow management to procure 1 staff member that will be assigned at a later date.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion?
I just have a process question. So then, does that come back to us at the point at all, like to talk about like, well, we we know the board said, you're kind of all like 1st grade, but we really need it in kindergarten. Here's like, is it ever a discussion again, or is this kind of like done?
No, it
I'm just, this is,
No, we can absolutely bring it back to the board and have a discussion about where to put this out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
And then by the sound of the will of the board, that's what we need to do. Perfectly appropriate.
awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll call a roll call vote with Victoria starting.
Parisi, yes?
White, yes.
Terry?
Beam, yes.
Gascoigne, yes.
Gothier, yes. And that is passed unanimously 5-0. So we have 7 minutes, Steve. Is that enough for us to talk for the 2 nominations you want to bring to the floor?
Absolutely. So while we're talking about staffing, we have interviewed and are ready to nominate 2 staff members. One, it replaces Kim Wyberny, but because we advertised for both a social worker and a school counselor, figure what would in this environment. And the person that rose to the top, some of you may remember Dan Farina. Dan Farina worked with us. I had a chance to work with Dan last year pretty closely in my assistant soup role. He did a year at Keene Middle and really found the structures and systems and the vision in place for Amherst Middle School. Went through the full hiring process, and Kristen Gothier, the new principal, recommended to me, and Christine and I had a chance to interview Dan together. So the recommendation is to bring Dan back. And also similarly in life skills, we transferred a teacher from life skills over to Clark Wilkins, which opened up the lead teacher, the director, if you will, of life skills. And that is a person that I worked last year with at Sauhegan. And so coming in, I knew Tammy, and actually with PD committee with Christine, but also got a chance to work with her at Sauhegan in my assistant soup role. So the resume for Tammy is there, but Dan, I think, just submitted some other stuff because his resume was pretty current with us. So it is my honor and pleasure to put those names in nomination.
I'll take a motion to take those nominations as presented, and then we can open it up for any discussion.
Parisi, yes, motion, sorry.
There we go. Nice save.
Yep.
Did you get that today? Okay. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jason with the second. Any discussion or questions for Steve? Okay. Oh, Terry, go ahead.
Not a question so much as a comment. I know that we were a little worried because this is one of those really highly skilled ones that can be very difficult to fill. And I happen to know that some of our surrounding districts have had all year long open positions. So I'm really thrilled to hear that we have people that we know and that we've vetted wanting to come back to us. And I think that speaks well of our school community. And I'm glad that even though they still went through the whole process, that we're able to take advantage of that. So well done.
Thank you.
All right, so take a roll call vote, starting Victoria.
Parisi, yes.
White, yes.
Beam, yes.
Gascoigne, yes.
Gothier, yes. That passes 5-0. I will open it up for public comment internally here. Seeing none, I will close it for public comment. I will look online. Nothing there as well. So we will get out of here at 5:56 tonight. Without objection, I will adjourn so that we can start our SAU meeting on time in 4 minutes.